Hello medieval gaming enthusiasts, my name is AlzaboHD. In today's challenge video, we will embark on an epic saga, where we attempt to sail from Iceland and conquer the Indian subcontinent starting as a one-province count. With only 300 starting levies on the most isolated island in the world, we will begin our saga as Chieftain Gardar Svarson of Autisland in Iron Man mode. In 867, Chieftain Gardar's position is laughable, with a pathetic army, economy, and severely stunted diplomatic range. Iceland itself is small, and is shared with Chieftain Óðir of Reykjavik. Gardar sets off on uniting the geothermal landmass, quickly laying siege and annexing Reykjavik into the realm. The unification of Iceland is now at hand, though the economy of rotting shark meat and miniature-sized horses is unable to sustain an army of sizable strength. Gardar knows that a subject population is the economic backbone to any feudal society, and quickly sets out to invade and conquer the Shetland and Faroe Islands. These lands fall swiftly under the force of the Svarson dynasty, contributing their meager whale wages to the national treasury. Gardar decides to crown himself as Duke of Iceland in 872, spending his money on a modest crown rather than investing into any actual economy. After all, Vikings take what they want, and have little use for paying silver when they can pay the iron price. But if Duke Gardar is to realize his ambitions, he's going to have to expand his power base. He thus embarks on a rapid conquest of the western coast of Scandinavia, supplanting local rulers with members of the Svarson dynasty. But darkness soon spreads upon the land, and Gardar's son and primary heir, Chieftain Uni, was murdered in cold blood. Duke Gardar set off on a berserk rampage, subjugating the entirety of western and northern Scandinavia. To further solidify his realm and sanity, the Mad Duke had himself coronated as King of Norway in 885. Counts across the land offered their vassalation rather than face the Mad King in battle, slowly but surely consolidating the Icelandic realm into the largest of northern Europe. But faith alone was not enough to sustain Gardar's vitality, and he passed into Valhalla in 893 AD, passing on his realm to the young and capable King Orvar. On his deathbed, Gardar whispered to his heir, "Son, you must set sail and usher in a new age of Viking exploration." And speaking of Vikings, this video is sponsored by Vikings War of Clans. Vikings War of Clans is an exciting mobile multiplayer strategy game that has you fight real players for the right to become the Jarl of the North. If you are interested in Vikings, this free-to-play game is perfect for you. Personally, I'm a fan of the wide selection of warriors and ships with which you can use to customize your army. The in-game siege battles and combat tactics are also great fun, and you can use different strategies and create various weapons and armor to empower your army and send your enemies to Valhalla. The game is constantly updated too, allowing you to never miss the action. Are you ready to join the millions of other players in the community? Help support AlzaboHD and the channel by downloading Vikings for free from my links in the description box, and become a hero of exciting events in the world of Vikings. And don't forget to look me up under my nickname, AlzaboHD. When Orvar Gardason ascended to the throne upon his father's death, he remembered the guiding message the late ruler had imparted upon him. In time, he would go on to explore and usher in a golden age for the Icelandic and Norwegian realm. But first he had to account for matters closer to home. The neighboring kingdom of Sweden was a threat to his realm, and, moreover, possessed Mediterranean and Iberian colonies that Orvar coveted for his own goals. The young king decided to make Sweden Norwegian again, and declared a subjugation war to overtake the realm. Although the war was hard fought and sent many souls to Valhalla, Orvar emerged triumphant and seized the Swedish realm for himself. With the newly acquired Swedish colonies in Iberia and overseas, Orvar now had the ability to raid further and conquer more than any Norseman had in recorded Norse story. Remembering his father's request, Orvar embarked on the largest Viking invasion the world had ever seen, quickly sacking and subjugating the Mediterranean basin. In a space of 2 years, the Norwegian realm encompassed Sardinia, the African coast of Libya, and even the kingdom of Denmark, which Orvar hunted for sport and leisure. But slaying Danish alone could not sate the growing ambitions of the ascending king, and Orvar soon turned his attention to the east. The Tulunid dynasty controlled the gateway to the Nile River, and the spices and riches of this unknown frontier pulled at the Norwegian king. Orvar rallied his bannermen and invaded the Caliphate of Egypt and annexed colonies along the Suez, Red Sea, and Arabian coastline. The king was quick to realize that the vastly expanding realm needed an organized faith, and in 925 he codified the teachings of his Norse ancestors, reforming the Asatru faith and becoming the temporal leader of Odin's will on earth. In keeping with the way of his people, the new religion espoused carnal pleasure, human sacrifice, military aggression, and of course the holy sacrament of mead. The newly proclaimed prophet of blood and bones endeavored to carve out an old-world empire to retain the Svaberson name. In a space of several years, the newly anointed Fylkir sent death stacks of Vikings and war maidens into the loins of Britannia, swiftly conquering Ireland and the plurality of the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms that would fall into Norse law. On the purified soil of men sent into Valhalla, Orvar proclaimed the unification of the Kingdom of Ireland and further consolidated his reign in Scandinavia, ruling over vast swaths of Europe and the largest realm the continent had yet seen. By 938 AD, the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms of England were firmly within the grasp of Orvar's vast realm, taking its place as the sixth kingdom of the Icelandic High Court. While still nominally a king in his own right, Orvar deliberated and proclaimed the adoption of Scandinavian elective succession throughout the empire, decentralizing his rule and forging the foundation of the proto-democratic system that we enjoy today in Gardar. In the autumn of his long life, Orvar changed the course of Norse story yet again by setting sail to the South Lands and declaring war on the strange and uncontacted people of Indland. In 942 AD, the frail and ancient king had at last reached the shores of this spicy and musical land of strange songs and dances, and knew he had finally realized the dreams of his late father. Upon leading his men onto the shores of Indland, however, the king joined his ancestors in Valhalla, passing away at 70 years old and leaving the realm in the hands of his son and heir, King Borkvard Olvarsson. Are there any Vikings in the chat below, because I have no idea how to pronounce that. Lord Borkvard, known in Iceland as Bjork, inherited the realm in a time of great struggle, as his late father's warriors remained locked in the midst of battle as the invasion of Indland moved forward. Leading his men personally, the king captured the capital of Canara and forced a peace upon the Tamil kings, carving out a county that would be the first Norse territory on the subcontinent. Norsemen do in fact mess with the Tamil kings, the first slice of land that would later become the home and realm of glorious Indo Gardar was taken from this conquest. But as a Norse historian, I'm getting ahead of myself. Bjorkvard's first order of business in his new reign was to consolidate and conquer the territory of the southern inland kings, paving a foundation of blood and bones that would form the bedrock of an emerging Norse kingdom. As foretold in the sagas, Bjorkvard granted these newly conquered lands to his nephews and extended relatives, populating inland with Norse settlers who pushed for more land on their growing domains. More and more territory was procured along the shores of inland in order to ensure the security of House Svaberson, while heretics were mercifully smited and sent to Odin's judgment. Less than a decade later, southern inland was entirely secured, and the new lands and conquered holdings were renamed after the Viking liberators who carved the territory for themselves. It was the golden age of Norse conquest and civilization, and Bjorkvard decided to move his court and proclaimed the newly renamed Svavarsborg the capital of his realm, and in turn repositioned the heart of his empire to the southern coast of inland. This new kingdom encompassed the expanding domain of the Indo Norse rulers, and would later become the shining jewel of imperial Indo Gardar. But blood, like mead, became an addiction for the newly crowned king, and in 951, Bjorkvard set out to conquer the neighboring kingdom of Karnata, the largest indigenous independent realm on the subcontinent. If it's red, it's dead, and after 13 months of ripping off the heads and loins of the nudist warriors, the kingdom of Karnata was forcibly annexed, doubling the size of Svarvarskardr. As is tradition, these new holdings were settled and renamed in the name of Svaberson legends. But Bjorkvard was not satisfied yet. In the coming years, more lands, crowns, and kingdoms fell into the control of the Indo Norse realm, currying a blend of Indian spices with rotten Icelandic shark meat. Talk about delicious. Moving back to the old world, Bjorkvard equally embarked on relentless conquest, invading the kingdoms of Brittany and Navarra and claiming their throne upon their defeat. The Svarvarson realm now contained 10 separate kingdoms, and they were promptly renamed after the sagas of Svarvarson lineage. Borkvard endeavored to gift these Viking kingdoms to the various members of his growing dynasty, so that his future heir and progeny could refocus their efforts on the development of southern Svarvarskardr. Before passing into Valhalla himself, Borkvard conquered further tracts of continental India and the plurality of Sri Lanka. He further formed the Kings, a Norse holy order that was headquartered in the city of Hákarl. In 979 AD, after 36 years of rule, Borkvard passed his mortal coil into the hands of his son and heir, Ófeig Björkvardsson. Lord Ófeig was the first Svarvarson king to be born and crowned in the new realm of Svarvarskardr. To commemorate the event, the newly coronated king proclaimed that House Svarvarson was a dynasty of many crowns, netting his house renown and global prestige. Given the division of the realm by his late father, members of House Svarvarson now ruled across Europe and the Old World, though their territorial integrity verged on that of unrefined border gore. His indigenous subjects sensed this newfound vulnerability and declared revolution after revolution, launching the largest Indian rebellion the realm had yet seen. Though the wars were hard fought, the Hindu hordes and treacherous Tamils were vanquished by blood and thunder, Loktar Ogar. And speaking of Hindus, though in this case the nudist variety, the kingdom of Maharashtra was next up on the Borkvard bucket list. Ófeig Björkvardsson declared war on this decadent realm, and his Vikings vanquished the nudist inhabitants in a mere year, greatly expanding Svarvarskardr and boosting Ófeig's power base in the process. More lands slowly dripped into his realm, including the substantially sized Sri Lanka, but Svarvarskardr began to splinter under the strain of Scandinavian secession, permitting foreign Svarvarson rulers to lay claim to the subcontinent. Ófeig swiftly set out to unify the realm, declaring war on these Norse pretenders and embarking on a campaign of territorial unification. By 995 AD, the plurality of these pretenders were exiled into Valhalla, and the victorious King Ófeig seized the opportunity to declare an empire to stand the test of time. The realm of Svarvarskardr was transformed into Imperial Indusgardr, marking a turning point in Norse story and the preeminence of the Indo Norse Golden Age. In an effort to commemorate the dawn of the Indo Norse Empire, a syncretic faith was announced and proclaimed by the prophetic emperor. A Satru Sutra, or the Indo Norse religion, is a combination of the best aspects of a Satru Norse faith and the indigenous pantheon of the subcontinent. It combines the spiritual and sometimes erotic scriptures of the Kama Sutra with the warlike teachings of Odin, and rapidly spread from its inception, readily finding believers in the diverse faiths of Indusgardr, and those that were less willing to convert were put to the sword. A multitude of neighboring rulers needed more forceful persuasion, and in swift succession their lands were converted and incorporated into the Indo-Norse state. Despite the legendary glory of the emperor, though, the rule of men is always temporary, and in 1008 AD, the reins of power were passed on to Ófeig II, a devious yet devout man of the newly organized religion. The coronation of Ófeig II marked a new era in the history of Indusgardr, as the crowned emperor was the first of a long line of Indo-Norse rulers to be born and crowned in the empire of their birth. Ófeig II consolidated his power by embarking on conquest after conquest, pushing the limits of the northern frontier deeper into India than any of his predecessors. A devout Asatru Sutran, Ófeig sought to unite the diverse peoples and faiths of the subcontinent under the Indo-Norse pantheon, and proselytized his message by way of relentless conquest. Perhaps unsurprisingly though, this oppressive means of rule garnered the High King enemies within and without the realm. In 1010 AD, the largest indigenous revolution yet seen threw the High Kingdom into chaos, with over 10,000 Indian Vaishnava rebels seeking to overthrow the Indo-Norse colonists and proclaim independence. The rebels were promptly liquidated and stowed away in the realm's overhead bins after 2 years of savage fighting, and the remainder were outright banished to die on the field of battle. In retaliation for the slight upon the territorial integrity of Indusgardr, the vengeful High King took it upon himself to redouble his efforts of Norse manifest destiny. The northern and eastern border was pushed further and further into the heart of Bengal and Uttar Pradesh, and the riches of South Asia flowed into the markets and court of the capital Svavarsporg. Indeed, it is often said that the downfall of the Indian kingdoms ushered in an Indo Norse golden age that would last for centuries to come. This dawn of a new era was marked by the adoption of feudalism in 1020 AD, transforming Ofeg II's status of High King to that of Emperor, and forever changing the history of Asia and the world. In the year 1020 AD, the Norse Empire of Gardar sprawls across the Indian subcontinent, slowly expanding its way towards the complete conquest of the previously Hindu lands. The rule of House Svavarsen is entrenched throughout the realm, and the dynasty would later go on to conquer and convert the region to the syncretic Asatru Sutra faith. Conversions are already rapidly spreading across the empire, with the majority of provinces and population following the Indo-Norse religion. Gardar itself retains a majority indigenous population, though Norse settlers are beginning to spread out from their stronghold in the southern capital region of Svavarsborg. In terms of family, House Svavarsen has almost 1,000 living members spread across Europe, Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. Of these ancestral progeny, 4 are independent kings of their own kingdoms, a testament to the historical conquest of Europe and division of the realm by the late King Borkvard Svavarsen. Over the generations, however, elective succession has transformed the Norse world into a blight of tentacular border gore, and Gardar retains control of the patchwork of counties throughout the former realm. Further abroad, it's interesting to note the rising power of Mega Estonia, itself a rare sight to see so late in the game. Given time, perhaps Estonia can reach historical glory in this alternative history and avoid their contemporary fate of becoming a pit stop for Finnish alcohol importation. Before ending the video, I'd like to thank you for watching this far and supporting the algorithm. If you like Crusader Kings and want more strategy gaming content, I humbly request that you usurp the like button and claim the subscription box. And if you're looking for more challenge videos, narrated stories, guides, and more, the channel has a bounty to offer, like that time we made our dynasty into a human conga line by engaging in sister-wife secession. For seemingly unknown reasons, YouTube has refused to send out notifications for my previous CK3 video to my subscribers, and if you're interested in checking out the strongest dukes of Crusader Kings, I'd greatly appreciate a view so that it's not lost to obscurity. A special thanks as well to Vikings Wharf Clans for sponsoring this video and supporting the channel. I hope you all have a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next video. It's time now to roll the credits.